Welcome to this live stream, and let's talk about useful idiots. I sometimes don't like to use that term when I'm talking about other human beings, but it's also sometimes appropriate. And I'm speaking that in a loving, respectful way, and also a very an important way given the situation that humanity finds itself in at this current point in time. And here's how I describe a useful idiot. A useful idiot is someone who knowingly or unknowingly, generally unknowingly, because generally human beings aren't going to knowingly screw themselves over. So let's revise it. A useful idiot is someone who unknowingly is helping the most evil, corrupt people in the world to garner more money, power, and control, and more resources, including money, which is the resource that runs the world, including money, for bad actors in the world. And let me give you an example of how this looks. You could have a useful idiot being in the political or in the public sphere or the private sector. In the public sector, they're generally working in a government capacity, and they don't know that when they pass laws to help a corporation or a billionaire philanthropist or a non-government organization, NGO, achieve their goal, that they're actually further enslaving humanity and further robbing humanity. Because maybe they haven't done the research, or also maybe they don't want to lose their job. And that's a straight up truth too. And on one hand, I can't blame them, but on the other hand, when we are so close to the complete and total breakdown of humanity and the complete and total breakdown of the financial system, specifically the dollar, if you're in the West, and remember, all these nations are connected to the dollar in a deep way. And I also like to remind Americans, if it's tough here in America, imagine what it is in a third world country that is connected to the dollar. That's one of the reasons why I believe people are coming to America, because the fact that these countries are connected to the dollar and we have hosed them over in a major way, they have no choice but to come here, and they're being assisted. But again, a person in a government capacity that is unknowingly helping corporate and or financiers enslave humanity, that's a useful idiot. Right there. In the private sector, and then I'll kind of connect the two and talk about the ramifications in the larger picture. In the private sector, a useful idiot is someone who, again, does not do the research, does not dig deep beneath the surface of what the mainstream media is telling them and wanting them to believe, because remember, the corporations own the media, right? They're owned by what? 6 to 9 companies, and all those companies also own all sorts of corporations. They could own corporations that are feeding you food that is processed and or, engineered in a lab, in a factory to taste really good and not healthy for the body with non-bioavailable products. And they could also own companies that solve the problems that those foods create. So that could be that's the bigger picture, but someone that doesn't look beneath the scenes in order to investigate, like in the private sector, that is supporting people in government who are making laws and doing things that will help to enslave humanity, right? Make them poorer, dumber, fatter, and less resourceful. That's a useful idiot. So useful idiots can be public or private. It's far more dangerous if you're a useful idiot in the public sector. Excuse me, in the public sector, working for a government entity in some capacity. Because those are the people that pass the laws. And on my own journey, once you start digging, you come to the conclusion of falsus unus, falsus optimus. You start to realize, holy shit, this whole shit is a lie, right? Once you start digging a little bit, you're like, oh, all this shit's connected, and it is not in the benefit of humanity. It benefits corporations, bankers, and billionaire philanthropists. I think back to when Mr. Joe Biden, one of the most corrupt people on the planet, bar none, said, hey, we want everyone to start testing themselves. This was near the end of COVID, and everyone was like, what do you do? Why do you want people to start testing? We have the supposed fix for the problem. Why do you care about testing? Do a little research and you realize, oh, Bill Gates and George Soros had purchased a company and retooled it to make testing kits, right? And so, of course, they're going to go to the government and say, "Hey, we want you to buy all these testing kits. Remember those? Remember those millions we donated to your campaign back in the day?" Or if it was Mr. Donald Trump, Pfizer would say, "Remember that $1 million we gave you at the beginning of your campaign? We need you to do something for us now." See, this is what pisses me off, and this is why I get so irritated with useful idiots. Is it is always humanity that gets sacked. It's always the citizens that get sacked, and at the top, money just circulates around, and the most evil monomaniacal. Well, I don't know that it's not capitalism that ain't so good. The jury's out. I sometimes, because I've seen some socialist countries. I've seen some evil, heinous shit throughout history done in socialists too. So, I don't want to throw capitalism under the bus, but yeah, I think what it is human beings are corruptible. That's why you got to keep an eye on them. That's why when I look at people maybe from the left who aren't super concerned that the government is getting more power, I'm like, you do realize that all it takes is a bad actor on that you don't want to get in, and you've just now paved the way for governments to have more power. You do realize that they're going to potentially hose you over. So I'm not saying, I think it's humans that are the problem. I don't know if the system, because I've seen some, look what Mao did. Look, what was it Lenin or Stalin? Was it Stalin who built the canal that can't harbor any ships, can't move ships, but like 400,000 people died in Russia. In these gulags, right? That's some straight up crazy shit. It happens all the time in different capacities. So I don't know, but I get real frustrated with these useful idiots that, here's the crux of it, that are a part of humanity. They and their families are part of humanity, and they're working with the deep state, the global cabal, bad criminals, evil people worldwide, to further enslave humanity, to steal resources from humanity. I'm like, you gotta have a screw loose to go down those roads. And I see it at the city level, I see it at the state level, and I see it at national level, and I see it at a global level. A useful idiot is also a person who listens to what the UN, the UN has their 17 sustainable development goals, which are complete and total bullshit. They don't give a shit. If they cared about humanity, they would stop the crime and corruption and the transfer of wealth from individuals and countries into the hands of the 1%. That's the problem in the world. The problem isn't CLIMATE. It isn't COVID. It isn't any of the other bullshit they try to push on us. The problem is the consolidation of wealth to the 1% from the 99%. I'm going to do a video here shortly coming up, and it's been on my list of videos, but there are some awesome resources out there and some information that talks about the wealth that is being stripped from largely third world countries and put into the hands of the 1%. And this is what's frustrating to me. I know good people that are on the left and the right, and I sometimes pick on the left a little bit because I'm a conservative person. And of course, you're gonna look out and say, okay, you're the problem, when I'm just as much of the problem. Let's not get it twisted. And I have been the problem before too. Being unaware, uneducated, uninformed, that's a freaking problem, and guilty. But I see a lot of people who are on the left who I know care about humanity. I know they want the best for the world, but they don't seem to see the threat and the danger of what happens when you have a small group of people that is, again, taking resources from the larger group of people. That's a huge freaking problem. And they're just continuing to go along with it, and it's wild to me. But there's a video out there that talks about, many videos out there that talk about the growing wealth consolidation in the hands of these few. And I look around, and it's like, this is why I started speaking out a couple of years ago. Once you know the ramifications of the problem and the specifics of the problem, you can't not shut up, again, because we're part of humanity. I'm part of humanity. Right? I have X number of years left on this planet. And also, oh, by the way, I don't want to leave the planet a worse place than when I came here. Let me just speak about that for a moment. Parents, I know parents care for their children. I really, really do. I know they care for their children. However, it is perplexing to me how a parent could look out into the landscape and see the corruption, see the overstep by government and the collusion and coercion, governments working with big tech, governments allowing corporations and individuals to buy their influence, and then they turn around and go, "Oh, something just happened in the benefit of that person that gave this politician $1 million." That's fishy. I can't understand how a parent can sit there and go, "Oh, I'm good with all that," because that trend is a bad trend to continue down the road. It has to be stopped. It has to be stopped. The crime and corruption at the government level, with that 1% circle at the top, it cannot go on. It can't go on. Otherwise, all of humanity is straight screwed, right? This is why Mark Moss talks about the battle for the future of humanity. We're really in that situation right now. And until the majority of people see it and have the courage to say, you know what, we're not down with it anymore. It's happening. It's happening. It won't be fixed. Useful idiots, they're out there. Unfortunately, I think they turn a blind eye to what is going on in the environment with these NGOs, with these corporate initiatives, right? We know that BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard they've told us, we want to change your behavior. They know they're doing that. Either they don't want it, they don't care, or they don't believe it, but they're doing it. And those people, they're buying up single family homes at an alarming rate. They're essentially locking out. This is where you get Klaus Schwab saying you'll own nothing and be happy about it. They're buying up single family homes, which has been the primary, one of the primary ways, also stocks and bonds, that middle class has created wealth over the centuries. They're buying up those homes at an alarming rate, using their private equity partnerships and all the bullshit that our government allowed to happen. Because remember, the government works for those people. The government works for BlackRock. The government works for Citi. The government works for Chase. And people on boots on the ground, I don't think people fully understand the ramifications of what is going down with this housing situation. Because once those funds and those 1% own the housing, and they lock it into their portfolio, it's never coming out. Nothing's ever coming out. See, they're doing a major push to get people into their permanent rental model, right? And then they have them for time and immemorial. And I don't think it's fully registered to people's mind what's truly going on there. When it does, people are going to hit the roof. Let's talk about the other elephant in the room, and that is David Rogers Webb documentary called The Great Taking. See, The Great Taking is what they want to have happen before you get to the Great Reset. The Great Taking, in a nutshell, is this. David Rogers Webb has uncovered how they plan to take assets and property, cars, homes, etc. If those assets and property are collateralized with a loan, the people who want to do this, which are very few people, they have adjusted the Uniform Commercial Code in such a way that it makes those assets theirs, if not when the dollar collapses and we have our major collapse. And we all know it's coming because the Fed has kicked the can down the road for so many years. Again, never solving the problem, and people are like, "Oh yeah, whatever." It's sketch. I don't know how we're still going right now anyway, because the only thing that's keeping economies healthy is the fact that the Fed is printing money out of thin air. That's why people's buying power is being eroded to such a degree, and people are starting to feel it. I don't know that people fully connect the dots because it is complex, right? Unless you start digging and looking, people aren't going to be like, "Well, I wonder why this is happening." Some people don't know why it's happening because some people don't know about the Fed at all. These younger generations may not even know that the Federal Reserve was a bill written in 1913 by bankers on Jekyll Island and given to Congress to say, "Hey, will you pass this thing? It's going to really benefit my friends in the banking commercial." And it created a banking cartel that has been, some believe, and I'm in this camp, one of the worst things that's ever happened to the United States and or humanity. Because what happens on a even though so it skews humans over in the United States, but let's look at what it does on a global level. So this is what I know happened to Gaddafi. I believe happened to Saddam Hussein. I haven't fully dived into this one, but I'm going to go for it. What's happening in Ukraine right now? It's what happened in where was the last one? Was it that I just found out about Romania? What happens is these global central bankers want everyone under their thumb because they make a lot of money off those people, and then they bring in their corporations to take those resources from. It's all about the resources. It's all about the money. They bring in the corporations to take the resources from these countries, and what happens is they put the countries in an economic hardship, or they simply replace the leader of the country using covert action agencies, and you probably know who they are. They simply replace the leader of the country to be a more amenable person that says that then these bankers can go, hey, we want your country to take this loan. And by the way, here's all the ramifications of the loan. And if you can't pay back the loan, we're just going to take all these resources, or they just fold all the resources into the loan in the first place. It permanently, basically financially enslaves that country and the citizens in that country. And remember, it happened because one useful idiot, generally a leader of a country, said, yeah, I'll go along with that. And oh, what's my commission on that? And they're set, and they sell out humanity. This is why it is wild to me in 2024 that anyone is listening to their government, knowing that we're really in a shitty situation, right? Wealth is being strip mined from humanity at an alarming rate and funneled up to that 1%. And I'm like, why are you still watching the media and listening to the government again? You know, it's wild. But they go into these countries and they do that in order to garner more resources for the evil beast system machine. I know more about Gaddafi than I do about Saddam, and well, a little bit about Ukraine as well. So Gaddafi was trying to introduce, and I'm not saying he was a good guy. I'm not saying he didn't have his faults, but I am saying that I'll go 100% in on this. I know he's better than having the global private central bankers, the International Monetary Fund, get involved with your country. That's 100% sure. But Gaddafi was introducing the dinar, and word on the street was he was going to empower Africa and move away from the petrodollar. And that's a big no-no in the world where these bankers have built their fortunes on the petrodollar. And so they send in covert action agencies to take out Gaddafi and destabilize that entire region. Absolutely horrific. Absolutely one of the worst things that can happen to any nation is to have a covert action agency under the guise of the government of the United States of America and or Great Britain come in and do some funky shit into your and they throw it into deep chaos and destruction. And then in the US, these people, in this case Hillary Clinton, is like, yeah, I care about people. I'm puts on this air, this PR machine of like, oh, I care about people and I'm here for the benefit of humanity and I'm doing good work and blah 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 blah. People know behind the scenes that she's a horrible person. And since we're going to be fair with here, the Bushes are horrible people for what they did in Iraq, right? The Bushes, again, the political system, there's one uniparty in my opinion, and they all work for the banking elite. Let's not call them elite. Let's call them bad actors. They work for those bankers and the corporations who have money, and they also, the military industrial complex, you go to war, it makes a lot of money for those people. And so of course they want to go to war. They don't give a shit. And meanwhile, the people that support Democrats or Republicans, thinking they're doing the good work because they haven't done the research, haven't dig beneath the surface, we're causing so much trouble in the world. Look how many hundreds of thousands people died in Iraq, civilian people and military people, all bullshit, all complete, total bullshit. Look what happened in Libya. Look what's happening in Ukraine. See, back in 2014, Obama, under the Obama-Biden administration, again, corrupt, they're all corrupt, Republican and Democrat, they were involved in the Maidan coup, laying the stage, the foundation for what's happening in Ukraine now. And what happens is the military industrial complex they spend tax dollars to buy bombs to go in and F up these countries beyond belief. And then they go, okay, now it's time to rebuild. Well, who gets the contract? The same companies the same military industrial complex. when you look at the sickness of it, it's so sick and disgusting, which is why I can't not speak out about it. And again, why humanity is becoming further restricted, and we have to get this parasite off of our backs. I didn't used to even talk about this kind of stuff. I was talking about, mindset, manifestation, personal development, productivity. But when I realized the biggest problem facing humanity, my podcast was called Enhancing the Human Experience. When I realized the biggest problem facing humanity, and I had my huge awakening in the COVID era, when I was like, oh shit, this is a major problem. I was like, okay, about face pivot into starting to share knowledge and information about what I feel is the biggest threat to the future of humanity, right? The government, corporate, private cabal that is, doing dirty deeds in the world and causing a whole bunch of heartache and pain and suffering. What was the video? As I deep dive into what's happening in Israel, and I go back to watch, and I watch documentaries about the start of that, the Nakba, the great catastrophe, that ultimately is not good for, clearly is not good for Palestinians, because there appears to be some genocidal shit going on in Gaza. Clearly it's not good for Palestinians, but also is not good for the Jewish people at all. But remember, the people that are running this shit, they don't care about anyone. They want power, money, and control. And if you've read Albert Pike's letter to Mazzini, written in 1871, they also want something else that is no bueno for the globe, for all of humanity, and that is WW3, right? These people are super, super bad news, and it's a mess. But as I deep dive into what's happening there, again, another rich man's trick. Israel was largely the brainchild of the Rothschilds, but remember, the Rothschilds, the U.S. and the Great Britain, they're a team, and they all benefit financially and strategically from having what is going on there go on, right? They get to make money off bombs. They get to have a strategic footprint in the area. It's a mess. It truly is a Nakba, in my opinion, for not only for the Palestinians and Jewish people, but also for potentially all of humanity. And why I think we have to we got to stop what's going on there. Like, we cannot continue to do this. The U.S. has already been drawn into bullshit wars around the world to enrich the military-industrial complex. We can't keep doing it. Humanity cannot withstand more of this bullshit. So, useful idiots are around us all the time, and the counter to a useful idiot is acquiring knowledge and information about what is happening and sharing that knowledge and information. Because what has to happen is the tide has to turn. It is turning. You have corporate mainstream media that has been bullshitting people for decades. That has to flip, and it's now it has to be a grassroots, because those people are never going to out themselves, right? They're part of the problem. It has to be grassroots, and this is why you're seeing so many people convert their social media channels to sharing knowledge and information, because they're part of humanity. I'm part of humanity. I'm not going to sit here and not do anything while I see the world potentially burning down, literally and figuratively. And many people are converting their social media channels to that, and I always encourage people to do that if you're so inclined. And then it just becomes a matter of, how can I package up and serve information to my fellow human beings in a way that is entertaining and informative and eclipse the mainstream media, because they suck. And also mainstream entertainment and mainstream music. People are starting to wake up to the bullshit. The level of indoctrination, the level of low vibes that those people put out, it's a major problem. So if you're so inclined, I encourage you to do that. By the way, to that point, you can check out my social media at gmarkphillips everywhere. I share different things on different platforms. My main platform is Instagram, and of course here on YouTube. I appreciate you guys for watching. Until next time, I wish you all the best health, wealth, and success, and leave me a thumbs up if you like this video. Thanks so much. Have an awesome day. Bye-bye.